create a new class called demo array 2. And in this one, instead of initializing an array to some values, we will declare an array of a size 10. That means indexes 0 through 9. Okay. Now, just like last week and the week before that, we're going to create a function to accept an input from user. We're going to be using that to accept scores. Remember, we learned about this shortcut approach last time. So I'm using that shortcut approach. And I can further shorten it. And I think we also learned about that approach. Yeah. Where we can just use an unnamed instance. And I think this is a shortest approach. So we are displaying a message, and then we are creating an unnamed instance of scanner type, which will call the next double, accept a value, and return it. So over here, we will write a for loop. Again, since I'm accepting an input from user, for each will not going to work here. So I would have to use the traditional approach. So this will keep looping. Oh, my bad. I should have, my bad. Let me change the scores to double up here in the array. Double and double. Okay. That should work now. I want you to test this as well. So just so that you can see that you can accept those 10 inputs. So we're going to be, oh, let me change one thing. Let me make this print instead of print ln. Let me terminate this and rerun it so that the input is accepted on the same line. Okay. So something that we learned last week, because I want to incorporate our previous week's knowledge as well as a way for you guys to review. So what I want to do, what I would like you guys to do this, keep accepting input if the value is not between 0 and 100. Okay, so keep the input rolling. Display re-enter for next input. Now that's something that you guys need to work on the logic, how to display re-enter for next input after the first one. First one for the same number. So we did all this last week, but let me see if you can reproduce what you already learned a week ago. So we're going to be making sure that this is inside a do while loop. But if I put this inside a do while loop, I'll say, okay, I cannot compare the value until I put it in a variable, right? Because I can't put a condition out there. Therefore, in this case, we would have to make some variations, alterations here. Okay, so double score equals to 0. Oops. score equals to new scanner, like that. While score is less than 0 or score is greater than 100, those are the cases where we want to go back and re-ask the user to please keep entering the value. If the score is within the range of 0 through 100, it's a valid input. And now we need to work on the re-enter logic, right? So enter a score and re-enter a score. So this is where we have to come up with some kind of a operation. So for example, we can have one of the approaches we can take is to have a count controller, which is set to 0. And here we check the condition. If count equals to 0, it's a post increment. So it will increment only after comparison. If it is equals to 0, that means it's the first time, so you will put enter. If it is not the first time, then you will use re-enter. And then you will concatenate that with the rest. So if I run it, 1 second, I have to put this inside a parentheses because what was happening was re-enter a score was being put together. Okay, so here we run it, enter a score. If I put 156, now it tells me to re-enter a score. Okay, so it just goes like that. So we are using the conditional operator from chapter number 5, and we are connecting it with the do-while loop. And what else I want to do here? Yeah, I want to also add something else here. I want to pass to input maybe the position of the score. So it's going to be I. So what we're going to be doing is, instead of saying enter a score, I'll say enter score number I plus 1. Why I plus 1? Because I is 0, right? Oh, sorry, not I, position. That's what I call position plus 1. So for the first score, I don't want to say enter score for 0. So please enter a score number this 1 the first time, 2 the second time, so it goes like that. Now, once we have accepted these numbers, to display these numbers back, I will use a for each loop. In fact, let me ask you to do that. How about that? Actually, for each loop in Java is called enhanced for loop, just so that you know. That's the Java way of saying the for each loop. It is referred to as for each loop. Oops, I should say enhanced for loop. So let's see if you can write an enhanced for loop to display all the scores. Absolutely. We cannot number it, but I wanted everybody to get familiar with for each loop as well, or enhanced for loop, so that when you code it, the more you code it, the more you remember it. That's basically what it is. So whenever we run into the running total, always remember it's the same stuff over and over again. You need to have a variable to store your total, and you always initialize it. All you need to do is, while the values get accepted, right away you add them to the total. I'm writing it in the expanded form, but you can always condense it. So as the value come in, you add it to the running total. And then right outside of displaying all the prices, I can now display total of all prices. It's total right here. Now, what will be the condensed form for line 11?
Oh, total plus equals prices I.
And the reason I'm bringing these over and over again is so that you, when you see them more, you remember more. Otherwise, if we keep going and not revise, then you probably will not see it again. And the likelihood is that you may forget. Display average price. So all you need to do is divide your total by what?
By the length of the array, by the length of the
Exactly.
prices.
Exactly, the length of the array, and that's it. Now, you see these huge long numbers here?
Mm-hmm.
I want these to be rounded to 2 decimal places. And let's see if you can do that. So did you guys see what I used here? I used the decimal format class, which we learned about a few weeks ago. And I gave it the format where I will be having a number and 2 zeros per decimal place. And then I used the format function of the decimal format class by calling it through the instance format, and it automatically formatted them to 2 decimal places. And of course, you have to include java.text package to work with decimal format class.